welcome on in, everyone, to the Ring the Bell podcast live here in Insane Games TV. Tyler and I for Ring the Bell. We got a lot of stuff to go over here today. We're going to talk a little AEW TNT tournament for the championship. We're going to talk a little. It's 25 years of Triple H being celebrated on SmackDown this week. We're going to talk a little bit about what the current situation is with Gronk and his move to the NFL. Where does that leave him with WWE? So we have a lot of stuff to talk about here tonight. Tyler, welcome on in. Can you hear me?
Year.
There you go. Yes, we got a lot of stuff to go over. It's been, again, we're in that weird wrestling time where it's kind of like we don't really know what's going on, and a lot of the shows are supposed to be live, but I guess now they're being taped again for WWE, and I don't know. It's just WWE keeps changing what they want to do. So, but nope. Nonetheless, we're still producing some Raw, some SmackDown, some AEW for us to discuss, NXT. So we're gonna let's jump right into the main topic. I think this was a request for you. You want to talk a lot about the AEW TNT tournament for the TNT Championship. So let's go over first off what the meaning of the belt is. So the meaning of the belt is basically a network-driven belt, from what I can kind of
Right.
see. Which I think to me, see, this is what I don't know if I like this type of storyline or not. WWE has never done like a network type belt. WCW was always network. WCW always talked about the network. Remember that they had like executive producer be like their guy who ran Raw, or a network official, or Impact had the network person as well. Help me here. Impact.
Impact Wrestling.
No, don't they have abbreviation? What was the abbreviation before Impact?
TNA.
TNA. I'm sorry. Why, I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Maybe that's because they're so forgotten. Impact, TNA had they had the network guy. WWE has never done a network thing. No network official, no network belt. So I'm not surprised to see AEW going down this with Turner Broadcasting and TNT. So let me throw it to you. Do you like the whole idea of the network belt? Where do you think this TNT belt's gonna fall in line in all the championships?
Well,
And so on.
I think it's good because they only have the heavyweight championship for AEW. They only have the tag team championship for AEW. They don't
Right.
have something that is like a caliber of the United States Championship or the Intercontinental Championship. They have the one that Kenny Omega is holding from New Japan, but I just feel like that's kind of like one of those belts that he only has so
Right.
he can go back and forth from New Japan to AEW. But I think it's a good placeholder to elevate a guy's career in AEW to potentially shoot him to the AEW Championship, kind of like they do with the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title. But looking at the bracket right now, they're in the semifinals. They got Cody facing off against Darby Allin next week, and then they got the natural Dustin Rhodes versus what is it, Luke Archer or
Lance Archer.
Lance Archer? Yeah. I knew it started with an L, but I look at the tournament, and the first thing I saw was Lance Archer on one side, Cody on the other. I was like, what's gonna happen? Finals, Cody versus Lance Archer. I think it only makes sense that it's gonna happen, and I think if I had to predict it right now, it looks like Cody's gonna be the one that holds that title first because he needs a title. They need to put a title on him. He needs to be relevant again, and then from where it goes from there is a mystery.
Well, I agree with you in the sense that I think I think they're gonna basically call the TNT. Well, it is called the TNT Championship. I think that's gonna be equivalent to like the Intercontinental or the U.S. title over on at WWE, and I do think they need them. Like you said before, they have pretty much two titles. They have the tag titles, and then they have the AEW Championship. And I mean, they have the women's one, but that's like the ones you find on the little action figures. It's so small.
Right.
And then the one that Kenny Omega, it's not really AEW. So I know they kind of have that partnership. They kind of go back, but it's not really an AEW born title. So it's kind of like, I'm sure they want their own. So I'm not surprised to see that they did the TNT Championship. I think you're right. I think Cody Rhodes will be the first placeholder for that title. I think he's the perfect network guy. I think that the
But I
network
mean,
likes.
honestly, even if it's Lance Archer, that's still not a bad person to hold the title either. I just think Cody makes the most sense.
there's a lot of mechanics to why Cody Rhodes needs to have the title. He hasn't had an AEW title yet. He's well deserving of one. And he's a perfect network guy. Not having He's a perfect guy who's kind of like in charge, who doesn't have the main title. He has the network title. It's working just fine for him. I think that's going to be what he's going to hold at. Set the bar for that title, and then he'll move on to something bigger or better or whatever. But I think he is the perfect first time holder for the TNT Championship. But let's kind of jump into where this all came. Did you see the ad that Cody did? I don't know if you want to call it. I don't know if you want to call it the ad or the segment that they posted on Twitter, with him walking up to like the four monitors and sitting in the chair. You had to go
Oh, and
watch it.
then
And he's
that
talking.
was the first segment of AEW.
Right. I saw it on Twitter. I think I first saw it on Twitter. AEW on Twitter posted it, and it's like a 3 minute segment, and it's just a great. He's talking about the network and just how they do things at AEW, and he's sitting in his suit, acting like he's like some kind of force of God or something in front of all these monitors. It was just I thought it was a very intriguing segment, and it was definitely one of those A+ Cody Rhodes segment.
I
And I
feel like a lot of the segments that they do like that for AEW work so much better than what WWE does. I just feel like they're more kind of like movie driven almost, where they're produced a little bit better than WWE.
hmm
And, like when you have Jake the Snake doing it, or Lance Archer, or even Brody Lee and Cody Rhodes, I feel like all of them are just higher quality vignettes than what you see on WWE. And I think that, adds to the whole, like I find myself watching AEW from start to finish more than I do WWE because of how well it's produced. It's easier to watch because they make it flow a little bit better rather than WWE. They chop it in segments, making it a little bit harder to watch, I think.
Right. Well, I mean, I look at the way they're producing the whole segment. And I think WWE, this is where they lack, and is that if WWE did something like this, they introduced a new title and they did a tournament, there'd be no promoting and like there'd be no like these guys are really making the Cody Rhodes segment. I thought was fantastic, and the way they kind of work smaller storylines into the bigger storyline of the tournament, like Dustin Rhodes. Is he gonna be forced to retire or not? So you kind of have that smaller storyline in with the bigger storyline of the entire tournament. And obviously Dustin Rhodes went head to head with who was it? Kip Sabian,
Sabian,
and
yeah.
like and he got the phone call. He called Cody and left a message. He's gonna put his career on the line, and and for this match, and that's what and he ended up winning. We'll talk a little bit about it in a second, but he ended up winning. But I like how they had the littler storylines in with the bigger storyline, which makes the whole thing great. I don't know how many
Yeah, I mean, I,
people.
I think when I watch AEW during this time, obviously without any fans, I find that they're doing it much better than WWE. I feel like they are producing great content where WWE it's kind of stale or
hmm
maybe kind of dry.
Right.
So I mean, I think now with the TNT title tournament, that's gonna it adds a lot of content to AEW when there's no fans allowed, and they don't have every single wrestler available. So I like what they're doing, and I hope that they continue it.
So I mean, let's break down the tournament for a minute. So you have 8 guys battling for this new title being brought on to AEW, obviously called the TNT Championship. 8 guys over the course of 3 shows, and I think the last one ends at Double or Nothing finale, May 23rd. I'm kind of looking at my cheat sheet over here. So you have the initial the initial people in there is Cody, Sean Spears, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allen. You have Dustin Rhodes, Kip Sabian, Colt Cabana, Lance Archer. So we kind of had the first 2 matches before, and then you had obviously the two that took place this last week: Dustin Rhodes versus
Kip
Kip,
Sabian.
and that was the main event for AEW. But you had the Sammy Guevara and Darby Allen match. How did you? At the beginning of that match, did you like how they started at where they kind of had like a brawl before the match even took place, and they kind of were out there battling, at the Titantron before the bell even went? Did you like how they kind of set that all up for that match?
Yeah, I mean, I think the both matches were really good, honestly. For the tournament, I think that the Guevara Allen match. I actually expected Darby Allin to lose because Guevara had lost against him at Revolution. So I was kind of shocked by that, but I feel like those two kind of are equal in status on AEW, so it could have gone either way. But I just thought it was a high tempo match like they typically have, and they produced good wrestling. I thought so.
So you have Darby now going against Cody Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes going against Lance Archer. And you've already illustrated that you think it's gonna be Lance Archer versus Cody Rhodes, which I think it's probably going to be. Do you think there's a chance we could see maybe a Dustin Rhodes versus Cody Rhodes?
I don't think so because Lance Archer is going to be undefeated going into that match against Cody. That they're going to push that to be one of the highest, maybe even the main event at Double or Nothing. Did they say who John Moxley's facing yet at Double or Nothing?
I haven't seen anything, but I can click here see if they have anything
I
posted yet.
haven't because I thought it was supposed to be him versus what's his name? Not Jack Swagger.
No, they don't have anything right now posted for him. No, I mean out of matches, they don't have the heavyweight title posted yet.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that being the main event though, because Lance Archer is going to be undefeated going into that if he beats the Natural, and then you got Cody probably going to beat Darby Allin, so that's going to be a high caliber match for Double or Nothing, probably the main event. I noticed this week though that they haven't had Hangman Page on for a while, which I think kind of hurts because then that takes away from Kenny Omega, and they can't really do much tag team action because their main tag team is not there.
I mean, it's no different than WWE. I mean, that could be one of those coronavirus guys who doesn't want to wrestle. It could be. You don't know.
Right.
I mean, he could be he's not comfortable doing it, or maybe he has, another issue for why he can't do it. I mean, it's just one of those. At this time, certain wrestlers are out, certain ones are there. What I'm kind of disappointed and kind of veer off topic, not so much, but a little bit. Sean Spears comes in. Here's a guy that left WWE, also known as Ty Dillinger, who I am actually a fan of. I was a fan of him on WWE. I thought he got shit on pretty hard. Do you feel like he's getting shit on at AEW too? I mean, you don't think that's a guy that's deserving to be in the quarterfinal or semifinals, if not the final? I mean, he's a pretty decent wrestler, but yet he gets shit on. They put him up against Cody out of all people to get put down by Cody. Like I just don't feel. I feel like he is more deserving of something than being lost to by Cody in the first round.
I wouldn't say that he's getting shit on because I think going up against Cody shows that, he lost to someone who's probably the best in the business.
Right.
So it doesn't put him down. I mean, if I remember the match correctly, it was a back and forth match. So it wasn't like he got all out destroyed throughout the whole entire match and got pushed down. It kind of probably made him look a little bit stronger than he actually is. But I feel like, he's one of those guys that's probably going to be challenging for the TNT title. He's not going to be challenging for the AEW title, but I don't know. They have a lot of guys in AEW right now that
They're
you
filling
can
up.
see they're filling up, but you can see going different directions. Like, when I first thought of AEW, I didn't think Kenny Omega would be a tag team title holder. I thought he would be an AEW champion by this time. So, maybe they come out with more belts. Maybe they go to a different show. They have a lot of talent on there. I think they have a lot more interesting characters in WWE at the moment.
You know what I love? And you don't like it, but this is me being a troublemaker. Is what's coming up is too many fish in the pond, and it's getting to that see WWE has been going for so long that they have people that just get disgruntled, or you look at the people like John Moxley and all these guys of Chris Jericho. There's too many people that AEW hasn't had to deal with that problem yet, but we're getting there slowly, slowly, and slowly. We're starting to get more and more people that deserve title reigns, and when they don't get those title reigns, that's when everything starts to get all fired up, and there's some backstage drama at AEW, and it's coming, and I can't wait because I'm gonna throw it. I'm telling you right now, because you've been this big AEW fan since we started talking about it here and Ring the Bell, and you have been this big. I can't wait till you have to justify drama backstage at AEW and what it means. Like Matt Hardy, how long until Matt Hardy deserves a title shot at AEW? Do you think Matt Hardy's gonna be there for months without a title shot? Yes or
I
no?
mean, I feel like they've been doing title opportunities pretty fairly, if you ask me. I mean, you have they have a number of guys going after the title. And I'm sure they'll find ways of doing it where they can have a number of guys going after the title for the tag team division, TNT Championship, and AEW Championship. I mean, they're getting more guys, but I can see what you're saying. At some point, they're gonna be like, well, when is it this guy's turn? Like Brody Lee coming in. When is it gonna be his turn? Because they're making him look so strong, just like Lance Archer. When are they gonna allow for that person to, go for that title?
Hey, so
So,
let me ask you. I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna give you these guys, and you tell me if they're deserving or not of a title. Adam
I mean, which
Page,
title are we talking about?
AEW, the only one that anyone cares about. Okay,
The main title?
the main title, AEW.
Hangman Page.
Heyman Page, yes or no? Is he deserving of a title?
Yes.
John Moxley, you know he already has it. Is he deserving of it?
Yes.
Chris Jericho,
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes,
Yes.
Jack Hager. I'm sorry.
Not yet.
No. Okay.
I think he should be one of those guys that goes for the TNT title first to kind of solidify himself.
All right, Kenny Omega.
Yes.
Mm, MJF.
Not yet. TNT title guy.
Okay, fair enough.
He's also injured though. They don't know when he's coming back.
True. So I just named off 5 that I can think of. Just some other ones that they're kind of, but 5. Matt Hardy.
No.
No. Okay. No.
Not
Really?
not yet. Not yet.
Okay. I disagree with that. So you named off 5. I'm gonna say 7. I think MJF is deserving of the title and big enough to be the champion. And I think when you bring in someone like Matt Hardy, there's expectations. And Matt Hardy's not coming over to be some little guy on the card getting beat up. He's coming over to further his career and the legendary status that he has. And he's no different. He's into the Chris Jericho category as far as I'm concerned. Chris Jericho's way up here. Way up here, but Matt Hardy's not too far off in his resume. So you have 7 guys in my opinion. You named 5. I agree with those 5 you said. Plus I added 2 more. There's 7 people that deserve to have that title right now. And you're gonna tell me that when this year ends, 2020, and that belt only changes once to someone else, you're gonna tell me there's gonna be a lot of people still happy with AEW. They're all for the whole AEW, the whole project. And what? No, they're gonna start to get disgruntled
I
that they're
mean, I
not getting the
disagree
title.
because AEW is ran completely different than WWE.
Is it?
WWE, everything goes through Vince McMahon. He's the
Okay.
one that gives you the script that you have to say during your promos. He's the one that tells you exactly what you have to do. I feel like AEW has a little bit more of a freer kind of flow to it, which allows for better creativity, which allows for these better promos that are happening, which allows for better matches. Which I think that's why guys are coming to AEW because they want that freedom. They don't want to be struggling to bring out a character, but they can't because they're limited to what they can do. So I mean, I feel like AEW is the promised land for a lot of these guys that didn't get a chance in WWE and can show themselves on a network show. I'm not saying it's the place to go that you're going to make tens of millions of dollars. I'm just saying this is a place where you can go to prove yourself, prove what you can bring to the table, what you can do from a wrestling standpoint. I just think and that's what makes better content. I think that's why when I turn on the wrestling shows that I have to watch, I'd rather watch AEW first than anything else WWE because it's usually better produced. There's better, matches. There's better content that's happening in the promo. So that's my opinion. I mean, I know you're a WWE stan, but
Well, first off, I agree that if you're a wrestler trying to build your name and to build your character and to build a foundation, I would say go to AEW. If let's say I'm a 21-year-old And I'm working up through, and I started working in these other other smaller companies and AAA company or whatever, and all these other tri-county, tri-state wrestling organizations. I would say if you want to build a character and build a name, you want AEW first, because it's not about the money. The money is when you get higher up and you can retire at like WWE. To build and to get the chance to earn that money at WWE, you almost have to build yourselves outside of WWE where they want you. Okay? Because if you go in at WWE at a young, you're just going to get buried. So I agree in the sense of I think it's better to go to AEW to build your name. However, your little argument you just threw out that the people are going to build it. No, it's no different. Rather, WWE builds a storyline for you and plants you there, or you make yourself known by coming up with your own creativity and place yourself at AEW. It's still the same thing. The policies may be a little different. They're still the same thing. And AEW isn't going to change their title every other month to a new wrestler. They're just not going to do that. Okay, they're just
Well,
not.
obviously.
So
But
regardless,
they're going to do it when it makes sense.
right. But regardless if it's a corporate thing or individual wrestlers coming up with great content, regardless of what it is, they're gonna still follow the same road. As they're not gonna get rid of the titles and change. So at the same time, there's
I
still
mean,
gonna
I
be the
agree and
same
I
amount of
disagree.
wrestlers.
Because typically what WWE does is they put the title on whoever they want.
Right.
They don't ride the hot hand. Like right now, John Moxley had the hot hand. That's why he
He
has
did.
it.
I agree with that.
Someone's gonna have the hot hand in AEW. The problem is that WWE wants to bring in these wrestlers from the past 10 years, 20 years ago that were on top of the game instead of building them like AEW does. AEW is building characters as we speak. They're not. That's why they took the title off Chris Jericho. They want John Moxley to have it, to show why he deserves to be champion, and that's why whenever John Moxley loses, I'm sure the person that takes it from him, it's gonna make sense because that's what the fans want. WWE just does whatever WWE wants, not what the fans want.
Okay. I agree with
I mean,
Chris
why would you
Jericho's
put
reign.
Brock Lesnar on a champion for a fucking year and then have him on half the shows?
Oh, do you really want to go down this road? Because I've already brought this why he brings in the money.
And that's all that
Brock
WWE cares
Lesnar
about.
knows
And
the
I'm
cheddar
talking about
cheese. He
from a
understands what it
wrestling
is.
standpoint, from a fan standpoint. If I had to watch something, I want to watch something that's entertaining to me. Most
I
of the time,
agree.
I watch WWE and I'm fast forwarding through it because I don't find it entertaining anymore. They're not doing stuff that the fans like. They're doing stuff that makes them the money. Well, it's not great for everybody
I
else.
will agree. WWE needs to work better on their stories and the details of their current story. Like AEW had their storylines have a lot of detail. WWE doesn't. It's very watered down. But with that said, though, I appreciate a new champion at WWE. I'm interested to see where Braun Strowman goes. I'm interested to see where Drew McIntyre goes. But don't think for 1 second that Brock Lesnar coming out like the fucking badass he is, the WWE title, isn't going to make people happy and put people in those seats. They like it. They like him coming out with a title. He brings in the cash. He brings in money for Vince McMahon, and that's just how it is. It is what it is, and that's
It's
why
just
certain
annoying
people
having
like.
a part-timer having the title. The title should be cherished.
Okay,
I
I
mean,
agree.
like your favorite wrestler, The Miz says, he brings relevancy to the Intercontinental title when he had it more than the WWE champion. I think that's sad. That means that you're not doing something right from a promotional standpoint.
Fair enough. Fair point. But
I know it's fair because I had to bring in your favorite wrestler to tell you exactly how it is.
he's not my favorite wrestler. He's one of
I
my
mean,
top five.
I like The Rock better. He's your second favorite.
Mm, Either way, I agree with Chris Jericho's reign. And I agree with John Moxley's reign so far. I think AEW has done it right so far, but they're going to start that third one, that third, fourth, and fifth title reign is really going to I think for me decide what AEW does moving in the future. And I think a lot. I do. Who do you put the title on for the third time? Who right now? If you had to pick the
If I had to
third,
pick,
if you had to pick the third, I'll tell you what. I want you to make it big. You got to think long term. I want you to make the third, fourth, and fifth pick for the AEW title. And I'm going to write this down. We're going to see if it goes down this path at all. Who do you think to be the third AEW champion?
if I had to pick someone to be that I really want to be the AEW champion,
No, don't
I
think what
don't.
you really want. Think what you think
No,
is
no.
going to happen.
Listen, can I
Okay,
can I talk? Can you let me finish, or
go.
are you gonna? If I had to pick someone, I don't think he's gonna be the third. I actually think he's gonna be the fourth. Now let me explain why. I want Hangman Page to have the title next, but I honestly could see Kenny Omega getting it next. And I think that would be great because I think John Moxley and Hangman Page have very similar characters, and having them going up against each other wouldn't make sense because they're so, chaotic and brash, and they have that Stone Cold mentality. Where if you have John Moxley go up against Kenny Omega, you have two different character sets, and then you have Kenny Omega going up against Hangman Page, which adds that backstory to it. So I
Right.
think that's what's going to make a lot more sense going forward. John Moxley, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, have Hangman Page go up against man, I don't know. I could see him going up against probably Lance Archer at that point. A big guy I mean, he's always being brought up against big guys, so
You
he's
going with
not going to back
Lance?
down. Yeah, I'll go with Lance. I think at that point he'll be big enough, and then you could always do like the big man versus big man, Lance Archer versus Jake Hager. I think those guys at that point. I mean, this is like we're talking months down the road, maybe even a year.
This is a
At
year.
that point, they'll be
This is a year.
solidified. Yeah, I mean, I feel like at that point they'll be solidified.
So you think the Le Champion is never going to have the title again in the next year?
I think he'll fight for it. I don't think he'll get it though. I think
Ma-
Chris Jericho, and I said this weeks ago. I said Chris Jericho did exactly what Chris Jericho needed to do for the AEW Championship, and that is why he is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time because he will do whatever it takes to put someone over, put the brand over, put himself over, put everybody over. That's why he's the best because he doesn't need the championship. He's still relevant on TV. Hell, he's one of the commentators, and he's probably the best commentator AEW has, and he's not even going to be full time. That's why I think he did what he needed to do in AEW, and he knows that.
Here's where I'm surprised. You don't think Cody Rhodes deserves to be in there at all?
No,
Matt Hardy? No.
no, Matt Hardy definitely not. Cody, I could see interchanging with Lance Archer. I could see that. I could see a Hangman Page versus either Lance Archer or Cody. I could see that. I just think a lot of it has to do with how long Cody's going to have the TNT title because I think he's going to be the one that holds it.
Very, 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 very interesting. I agree with your Kenny Omega, Hangman Page. I don't know if I put them in that particular order. I'm not a big
I'm just
Lance
saying that
Archer fan.
order makes sense
It makes
because
sense. Okay.
you can't have Hangman Page go up against John Moxley. Their characters are too similar to one another.
Right. Fair enough. We're gonna see. I'm gonna keep this little note because I keep all my ring the bell notes in a folder, and we're gonna keep track of when the AEW title changes. And so, let me ask you this question to end this topic. Looking a year down the road, you don't think AEW is gonna have a traffic jam at all up at the AEW Championship, and you don't think, if there is, that there are gonna be people that become disgruntled.
I'm sure they will. I mean, look at all right. I always like to go back to the Attitude Era because they had so many good wrestlers at the time that they would essentially have the same problem AEW has, where they have so many guys that deserve the title that don't have it. I'm sure they're gonna do like a lot of the matches that the Attitude Era used to do with 4-man, 6-man, like those big matches at the pay-per-views, to kind of add a lot of people to it, to make sure that these guys are being taken care of, that they are fighting for the championship because they deserve to. I think you'll see a lot of that. Maybe you'll see some guys leave. Maybe you'll see some guys, disgruntled. But I mean, if I had this problem as AEW, the biggest problem AEW has is we have too much talent that deserves to have a championship. Fuck, I'll take that problem any day of the week.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, I'm right. I thought of something for a future show. So, alright. We kind of talked a lot about the AEW picture there, and Tyler's outlined his next
Speaking of
three.
champions, my
Yes.
background is just so beautiful right now. I just look at it and I'm just like, God. One of the best moments, the greatest moments in WWE history, I would have to say.
Do you think another title run's coming?
For Jeff Hardy, I hope so. I think he would be a great champion.
The rumor
Do I
mill
think he
has him getting
deserves?
a big push.
And you could see him getting a big push, but the biggest thing is this is what WWE's problem is. They just give people this. Like, they don't earn it. Like, I feel like, for me, like, yeah, I want Jeff Hardy to be champion, obviously. But I feel like he hasn't earned it. I want him to earn that championship opportunity. This Jeff Hardy, he earned this title right here. Any title that Jeff Hardy had in the past earned it. Now he's just, oh, Jeff Hardy's back from injury. Let's just throw him in the WWE Championship. It just, to me, it's just like a cheap cop out to have someone that used to have the title get it. And you know what? They're gonna put him up against Braun Strowman, so it's gonna be a classic. Jeff Hardy gets beat up, torn to shreds the first few times, just like he did back with Undertaker when he had the undisputed title. And then what we're gonna get is the underdog story of Jeff Hardy beating Braun Strowman. Oh my God! A fucking Money in the Bank or whatever it's gonna be.
Do you know why I had a grin on my face that entire time you were just talking? Because how many times your dreams have been shattered when Jeff Hardy comes down and just gets squashed in the first minute of a match, just
One of
taken right out, it's not even like a real match. I could
one
just
of
see
my
you being
favorite
so upset.
one of my favorite matches ever. 2002 ladder match on Raw with Jeff Hardy versus Undertaker. Jeff Hardy gets completely destroyed. But at the end, he was made to look strong because he told Undertaker that he's not finished with him yet. And then yada, yada, yada. It was a great match. I just find it sad that one of my favorite matches by my favorite wrestler is of him losing. But it was so good. I mean, he's so good at losing, but he's also, really good at holding titles as well, I would say.
All right, quick question: yes or no? Do you think they give him a Universal title run at all?
Yes.
I say yes too. I think they will.
I
I
think
think
I think I think he deserves it. Like I said, I want him to earn it.
right. Yeah. Well, I think out of all people who fight to earn something, I have never said Jeff Hardy has not fought to earn whatever he get. Jeff Hardy, stuff outside of WWE alone, he has issues with stuff outside, but I think he's definitely earned when he's in that ring. He fights to the end and definitely earns
I mean,
title
he's hands
shots.
down a Hall of Famer. Obviously, we all know that. I would put him in the category of as one of the best in ring performers in WWE history. Probably top 20 easily. From what he does from 20 feet up in the air to, the moves he has done his whole entire career to putting guys over even. Like, he was one of the first people that put Brock Lesnar over. I mean, he got destroyed, but
It's true.
The Rock
All
put
right,
Brock Lesnar over.
let's move on to jumping into some WWE talk tonight on SmackDown. They're celebrating 25 years of Triple H. I'm not quite sure what the meaning of that is. Outside, it just he's been around for 25 years, and it may
It's
generate
because
some.
he's there.
It may just generate a different type of rate. Okay, I get it, but we're celebrating 25 years of Triple H, so that's coming up tonight. So Tyler and I, to celebrate that moment, we each thought of one moment and one match to celebrate Triple H, and what we think their best moment is. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I'll go first for best Triple H moment. You go first for best Triple H match.
And I'm
I'll
gonna tell
do
you
the
right now,
moment.
I'm gonna be effing pissed if you have one that I have, because we haven't shared each other's moments or match.
I mean,
Okay, you go.
so my favorite Triple H moment has to be when him and DX went to WCW on the tank and kind of crashed WCW. I thought that was one of my favorite moments. Probably one of the best moments in WWE history because it was, at a time where they were going head to head, obviously, and he and DX, reigned supreme over WCW in the end with WWE buying them out. But I just think that moment's so hilarious because it hadn't been done. And everybody was waiting for those run-ins to actually happen between WCW and WWE. And I'm glad that DX was the ones that pushed the envelope to do that.
Fair. I think that was an iconic moment. I think that set up the bar pretty high for the WCW, WWE, well, at the time WWF rivalry. It really put WWF on the map. So I'll give you that. I think it's a fair moment. And Triple H definitely has a lot of moments. You can look at so many different things that he's done throughout the years. My favorite Triple H moment is, and back when I watched a lot of WWF, obviously it was during or WWE, it was during the Attitude Era, so he was the villain, and I hated him as the villain, and that's obviously the point. But I didn't appreciate him as much until he tore his ACL and he was out, or it's something he was out a
Exactly.
while.
Yeah.
He was out a long time, and when he came back in 2001, do you remember that on Raw? He came out jean
That
jacket.
was my other favorite moment right there.
The crowd reaction when the because remember he came out, and I don't believe they had any lights on when he came out. It was just his video playing on the Titantron. Then under the Titantron they turned this light on. He was there, and he was doing like his I forget exactly what the his the thing that he does with his arms or whatever, and the crowd just went berserk. And this is the guy, again, remember, this is the guy that when he last left WWE, he was a villain, and all these people are crazy cheering him because I think that was the first time people realized how much they like Triple H being on Raw as a villain, and how much he brings out to people like Chris Jericho and Stone Cold and The Rock, and how they were faces and he was a heel, and it just shows a lot. But that was probably my favorite Triple H moment is when he returns in 2001, and the fans went berserk. It was just a great moment.
I think the backstory to that when he got injured, I think he was facing Chris Jericho at the time, and he was gonna pedigree him through a table, and when he went up or something like that, he had felt something in his knee give out, and he went through the table or whatnot, and he basically told, I think it was Chris Jericho during that match, he was like, "I can't go anymore." He's like,
I know.
"Something happened in my leg."
I think Chris. It was that was back when Triple H and Stone Cold were a team. And I think they were
Right,
fighting I think Chris Jericho. So I do remember it was a tag match, and it was him and Stone Cold. I think it was Triple. I think it was Chris Jericho and maybe Chris Benoit. I don't know who it
right.
was. But yeah, you're right. He got hurt, and then he went and he was telling someone he had to get off.
Yeah, but that moment when, he realized that, because him and Stone Cold were supposed to go on like this long reign of being champions together and whatnot, and then he realized right there, and I think, everything leading up at that after that whole entire year of him being gone, all the video footage that he had taken of him, training to get back to 100%, and then coming back. I mean, that was one of my favorite moments. I think that was at a time when WWE was probably at my favorite time that it was ever at in 2002, because you had a lot of guys from WCW over there. You had all the guys from WWF, and basically whoever was champion at that time was literally the best in the world. And with Triple H coming back at it, added just another level of disparity into the wrestlers that they had, and he was coming back for vengeance. And when he won the title, this is my when he won the title first coming back, I forget what match it was, but that was a very special moment for Triple H, and I'm sure it's probably gonna be one of his favorite moments when he accepts his Hall of Fame.
Who did he fight first? Was it Shawn
I'm
Michaels?
trying to I'm trying to look it up. I think it was Shawn
Because
Michaels.
I know when he returned, they were done with the whole alliance storyline, and I think it began the draft to the wrestlers of Raw and SmackDown. And I think Shawn Michaels tried to get Triple H on one, and I'm pretty sure Triple H tricked Shawn Michaels into thinking that it was a DX reunion, and then took him out. I don't know if that was it, and then that started a huge Shawn Michaels Triple H match or rivalry, I should say. I'm trying to think when that was. Or did he come back? Was it Kurt Angle? I don't remember. Are you looking it up?
I am, but I can't find it. Yeah, this was probably my favorite match though of Triple H, was Triple H versus Chris Jericho, um, at WrestleMania.
Oh God.
Uh,
So is this your match you're saying now?
this would have to be the match, I would say. I don't know if this was WrestleMania though. March 17th, 2002, was that WrestleMania? I thought WrestleMania that year was in April. No, it was
Sometimes.
WrestleMania. It
Yeah,
was
sometimes.
WrestleMania 18.
Yeah, sometimes it's early March.
Yeah, he beat Chris Jericho for the Undisputed Championship. I would say that was probably my favorite match of his. Two of my favorite wrestlers, probably Chris Jericho, obviously being up there higher than Triple H. But the biggest reason why is exactly what I explained before. He as he quotes, winning at WrestleMania is the ultimate moment. But it was extra special for me because it was the defining moment of my comeback from a career-ending quad tear, which is exactly what I meant. I remember him saying that, and I thought that was why it was more special for me, watching it.
My favorite Triple H match, and it might not be Triple H's favorite match, and probably no Triple H fans' favorite match,
The Rock.
but it might be one of my not only favorite matches of all time, but just one of my favorite segments of all time. Just the whole thing in general. Backlash 2000, The Rock, Triple H. Do you remember what happened at the end there?
No, tell me.
It's when The Rock. This was back when the McMahon Hemsley faction was so great. They were just
I
destroying The
love
Rock
this
every rock.
era.
I love it. It was destroying everything. And then Backlash was the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And not only is it a great segment, it's probably the best J.R. King segment I think I've ever heard. Stone Cold comes out and Jim Ross like Austin, 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 and he takes out everyone with a chair shot. And Triple H gets laid out in the ring, and The Rock obviously wins the title, and the crowd goes wild. And then the next night, Triple H is on a vengeance, and they comes out and takes out The Rock. But it's just one of the match in general was so good because Triple H and The Rock, I think, are two of the. I think it's one of the best rivalries out there. Triple H Rock, and it was those two. I think they wrestled for like 45 minutes. It was a crazy, absurd match. And of course, you had like Vince McMahon on the sidelines. You had Stephanie McMahon. You had the DX. You had the faction, and there was just The Rock by himself. And then Linda and Stone Cold come out, and Stone Cold and Linda brings out the fired referee Earl Hebner, and Jr. or King's like he's fired. He's not a referee. He's fired. And he comes in. He gets the 1, 2, 3, and the Rock. It's just the whole match. I thought was just well. It ended up being I think with the Stone Cold segment, it ended up being like a 55-minute match. It was absurd, and just that
Yeah, I
whole
mean,
thing.
I think now that I think back on it, Backlash, like that pay per view used to be one of the best pay per views that
It's
they'd have
great.
because they would place it right after WrestleMania, so you'd actually get like WrestleMania caliber matches at Backlash too. And I just remember watching the Raw after Backlash, and it was almost as good as the Raw after WrestleMania. I mean, most of the time it was Jeff Hardy getting fucking destroyed. But you always saw someone that was champion come out of that on the next Raw being
Right.
a new champion. I feel like the storylines out of Backlash were always the best. Also, Backlash, the reason why I thought it was so good is the setup that they used to have with those little freaking
Yeah,
hooks
that
that
goes
would come
down.
up and down. That used to be the best setup. I think that's my favorite setup that WWE has ever created besides the classic SmackDown fist coming through the Titantron. That is a sick setup I wish they would go back to.
And that reminds it's funny that era and that time brings me back to the whole like when you set up when you mentioned what happens the next day in Raw. I remember that back in the Shevlin house back in the early 2000s. Yeah, I don't know if people remember. You had the little cable box, and it was the dumbest cable box. That was like it was like this brown cable box and plugged in. I remember we would try to plug it in, and TJ would try to hook it up, and Kathy didn't pay the cable bill or something, so we couldn't order the pay per view, and it just turned into a big fight all the time. It's just because you always wanted to watch it, but back then it was like $60 for
Right.
it was a
For
lot
each
of
pay per
money
view.
for each
I
pay
would
per
I would
view.
say there's four pay per views you would always buy if you
Yep,
could buy them.
yep.
WrestleMania, obviously, Royal Rumble, obviously, SummerSlam, obviously, and Backlash. Those would be my four. Honestly, some of the times you would even go Armageddon, the one right
We'll
before
go
Royal Rumble.
Armageddon,
That
Unforgiven,
that one was. I would
Unforget.
Unforgiven wasn't really a good one. I thought you'd get Armageddon right before Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble, obviously, WrestleMania. Then you get Backlash after WrestleMania, and then SummerSlam is always like really good too. But I would
And
say
back
those.
and back in the day, back in 2000, little Danny Shevlin was only 13 years old. Can you imagine going and asking your mom every month, can we buy this $60 pay per view?
That's
Like
why you got to get.
you could only get so many of them a year, so it's just like you had to pick and choose. I remember I click on like WWE.com to see who won, who wins the title, who won the title. Did The Rock win? Did he not win?
Got to refresh it. Yeah,
And then you
I
or you
remember
had to
having to
wait
do
till
that
Raw
too.
the
Like,
next day, and you would have to wait till Raw and go, oh, is The Rock gonna come out the new champions? It was crazy back then, but that segment and that match was by far probably my favorite, and I was actually gonna use it once for our people who don't know we have a fantasy football league. I was actually gonna use that video when Tom lost in the championship because how the league hated Tom, how his shit talk, and when The Rock wins the title at the end, he puts his arm up and the crowd's going wild. I was gonna place all like the people's names in the stands cheering with the new champion. It was just a great. I just love that segment altogether. It's just a great segment.
Now that I think about it, some of the best sets though, like the best displays from, obviously like the matches or the pay-per-views, a lot of them came from WCW, I think. If you go back and look at WCW's like Bash at the Beach, they had one Halloween Havoc, like all of those ones were always so good of setups. They were simple because they were back in the 90s. And then you
Right.
go to like WWE and then they would put on these like on a grander scale because they had more money obviously. But those sets, I wish they would go back to personalizing sets like they used to do.
Oh, of
Like
course not.
WWE,
They
the
don't
only
do
time
that.
that they do that is for WrestleMania, which I mean, obviously we all get that, but I think they need to go back to doing those sets, those special, pay-per-view sets that they used to do. I think it adds to the whole aura of the pay-per-view, makes it a lot better.
All right, so I'm gonna change the
And then
subject a little bit here.
you could obviously use the matches on those sets like they always do.
Now, back in the day, now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna list off all the 2000 pay-per-views in the year 2000. Okay,
Okay.
with their main event, and you tell me the tough choices you would have to make because there weren't many easy choices back then. First one of the year, Royal Rumble, obviously the Royal Rumble match. That is automatically one of the top. If you only had to order four, that's definitely one of them. No Way Out, Triple
Now,
H versus
I've
Cactus
already told
Jack.
you my four. I already told
Okay,
you my four.
WrestleMania, Triple H,
Yes.
The Rock, Big Show, Mick Foley. Great match. That was almost my second. That was almost my top match for Triple H. Backlash. We just talked about that. Insurrection. That wasn't really a good one. Judgment Day. Not a bad choice. That was The Rock and Triple H for the WWE title. King of the Ring. No, you wouldn't get King of the Ring.
King of the Ring used to be good back in the 90s, and then they took
Not.
away from it.
But here's the main event: the McMahon Helmsley faction versus The Rock, Undertaker, Kane. You don't want to see that match? It's a tough one. Fully Loaded: The Rock versus Chris Benoit, WWF title. SummerSlam: The Rock versus Triple H versus Kurt Angle. Unforgiven: The Rock versus Undertaker versus Chris Benoit versus Kane. Survivor Series. That's a great one.
Survivor Series is a good one.
Survivor Series is a tough one. I don't know. That could crack the top
I mean,
four.
I already told you my four. Easy. SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble. I mean, now what I would have to pick, probably Money in the Bank. I mean, usually something comes out of Money in the Bank, so.
Oh God! Listen to this. Survivor Series. It was Stone Cold versus
Oh,
Triple
Survivor
H.
Series, yeah.
It was in Tampa, Florida. The following pay per view, No Mercy. The Rock. Wait, No Mercy was The Rock versus Kurt Angle WWF Championship in Albany. Back to back Tampa Albany. No,
God.
that's a weird. Rebellion, kind of stupid. That was Kurt Angle versus The Rock versus Stone Cold versus
Rebellion,
Rikishi.
that was in the UK, right? Was that the one that they did in the
Now
UK?
this one was in the UK, yeah. And then the last one was Armageddon. And that
Armageddon.
was Kurt
Rikishi.
Angle versus Stone
Dope.
Cold versus The Rock versus Undertaker versus Triple H versus Rikishi WWE. There's
Yes.
a
That might honestly be my second favorite Triple H match right there.
and
That
that was
match
I
is
thought of that.
probably one of my favorite matches that had ever existed in WWE at the time.
That
That
might
was an
be
incredible match.
that might be the best effing year of matches right there. If you're a Rock fan, you spend a ton of money on pay per views. He's in pretty much every. But look at that. That is just looking at where the title went throughout the year is
Well,
just
think. I
crazy.
mean, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, they had their one. I think it was one of their first TLC matches that year.
Probably, I
I think
believe
it was
it.
SummerSlam or something like that against the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian. I mean, that was just a great year of wrestling in general. 2000. I mean,
Yeah, that was a great year. I don't know. That's a tough bunch of pay per views to choose from. But geez, we did. I think we ended up getting like four or five of them that year. All right, we got 5 minutes left, so we got a lot of topics that we'll just sideline to next week. Anything you want to kind of go over or talk about at all? Anything on Raw or SmackDown that of interest?
not really.
No, yeah, there's
Nothing,
not much.
nothing too great this week.
No, I agree. All right. Well, I think that's it. We got the No Look podcast coming up next. We got your boy Yo Soy and your man, goddamn Tyler Hayes, talking and reviewing the NFL draft that happened last night, round one. They'll break all that down. You want to give a little highlight? Anything you guys going over?
I mean, stay tuned, find out. Stay on insanegamestv.com or Insane Games TV. Was it Insane Games underscore TV, Twitch.com. Going to be talking NFL draft, NFL news. Then we got a special bracket, things we miss that we can't do during quarantine. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. It's going to be a long show, though, because we're going to be doing a lot of NFL draft. But your man goddamn's got to take a piss, though, and he's been holding it since 3:15.
All right, so let's end it. So you're gonna get an extended version of the No Look podcast coming up next, right here, Instant Games TV with Tyler and Austin. So make sure you check in. Tyler, see you next week. Have a good show
Drop
next.
that.
Adios.